Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Wave Network and Sports Corner with the Conn Man. I am your host, the Conn Man. And with me this evening, I have a very special guest. He goes by the name of Chuck Everson. Chuck, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great. How are you, Mike? What's going on?
Hey, I definitely wanted you back on the show because, first of all, I mean, you was exceptional, number one, and trying to take a little bit of your knowledge, let the viewers know a little bit more about you. You are a native of Long Island, graduated from Brentwood High School in 1982.
Yep.
Shortly after arrived at Villanova, where you was recruited by Rutgers, Syracuse, and other teams, but you decided to pick and choose Villanova. Can you let the viewers know why?
Yeah, Rolling Massimino. I went to his camp and I saw him speak as an eighth grader, and I was buying what he was putting down, Mike. I mean, the family stuff, all of those things turned out to be, who knew, as a young kid, I was making probably the best decision of my whole life, going to play for him, and the relationship that we had. Obviously there's the basketball relationship, but then that was only like this much of the relationship. And then I was with him right until his final breath, pretty much. I mean, so it was one of those things. We were very, very lucky to be associated with him and to have him as not only a coach, but a mentor, a friend, a confidant, and everything else.
I know he meant a lot to you, and I've been watching your videos and your posts, and he was a character, to put it lightly, and along with many others during that Big East era, and we can talk about that in a little while. But you then went on to Villanova, and you guys won the 1985 NCAA championship, and you guys were called the Cinderella team. Why do you think you guys were called the Cinderella team?
I don't think it was as much as us being a Cinderella as Georgetown being that great. I mean, Georgetown, Patrick had been to the Final Four 3 out of his 4 years. They won the year before. They were dominant. They were the number 1 or number 2 team in the country the entire season with St. John's. And this was supposed to be their crowning achievement, their quote unquote dynasty. They were supposed to go back to back. Everybody in the world thought they were going to win, and
yes, absolutely.
It wound up being the world's greatest April Fool's joke, Mike. Georgetown won April Fool's.
Now, folks, for those of you who may not remember, going back a little bit in time, that Georgetown team had Pat Ewing, David Wingate, Billy Martin, some guy named Reggie Williams, Michael Jackson, and Horace Broadnax. And at the time when you guys played against them, I guess you were serious underdogs. And you guys had a guy by the name of Ed Pickney.
Yeah.
Kind of what I call a local guy, Dwayne McClain, though he's from Worcester. Harold Presley, Gary McClain, Hal Jensen, Mark Plansky. So overall, what was your feeling going into the game, knowing that they just come off a championship? They want to have their send-off, as you call it. And what was the sentiment that you guys felt going into that game?
Well, we were not afraid of them in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we had played them every year. And every year that I was at Villanova, we beat them once, So we hadn't beaten them up until that point. And ESPN ran the 2 games that morning. They ran the 2 games that we played them that year. We lost one in overtime, I think by 5, and we lost a 2-point game. So it was, we knew what to expect. It wasn't like if Memphis State played against them and had no idea of what kind of pressure they were going to get and what kind of intense defensive, stuff they were going to get. I mean, we knew what we were going to get. Gary McLean, our point guard, our field marshal, our field general, he took care of business with the basketball, didn't turn the ball over. And, we knew that would happen because Gary's that type of guy, and he felt the pressure before. He felt the heat from these guys for his whole career. So, in that regard, I think that's what separated us from some of the other teams that they played against outside the conference.
Now, what was it like once you guys won the championship and coming home? And what was the parade like? The atmosphere. Let the viewers know, because
it was everything you see. It was everything you think it would be, Mike. I mean, it was. First of all, we get on the plane. Nobody slept. So everybody's crashed out on the plane, and there's a famous picture with Connolly Brown and Harold Presley dead asleep, and in the middle of them is the championship trophy, had its own seat, and we get there. There's a couple thousand people at the airport, and we had no idea what was going on, and they whisk us onto these flatbed trucks. Next thing you know, we're going down Market Street. There's 100,000 or more people there, throwing confetti and stuff. It was wild, and you know how Philadelphia likes their championship teams, man. It's, Philadelphia fans are very, very passionate fans, especially when it comes to their local teams. And fortunately for us, we were one of those. And it was like being a rock star. You couldn't go to a restaurant. You'd walk into a restaurant and people would stand up and start clapping, and you'd be asked to sign stuff, and the guy, somebody would come over to you and say, hey, your first 2 drinks are on that guy. Your next 2 drinks, we got dinner, all that kind of stuff. It was wild. And you know what? You get to experience it. And I was fortunate and blessed enough to be able to experience that once in my lifetime. A lot of people don't get to see what that feels like. I can't imagine, some of these big superstars like, Michael Jordan or people of that regard where they go out and it's like that all the time, because it was cool for a summer, when we went, and then once we started playing again, all bets were off.
What are your fondest recollections of playing for Villanova?
More so the behind the scenes stuff with these guys. The group of us are very, very close to this day. We still get together. We still do things. I get on the phone pick a guy, and we're both laughing on the phone like we're 20-year-old kids again, and that to me is the part of this whole thing that I love the most. And I'm the guy that kind of keeps everything together, I know. So it's one of those things that eventually you got to stop playing. Your body can't take it anymore, and that kind of thing. And Father Time is undefeated, and but the fun stuff doesn't have to end. And again, if you ask anybody on that team, they could tell you the score of the Georgetown game. That might be it. Any of the other games we played, nobody knows who scored, how many points, but I could tell you what happened on the bus ride to the Georgetown game, or I could tell you what happened.
Right.
So it's that kind of thing, and it's the camaraderie, it's the ball breaking, it's all of that.
Now you got drafted by the Utah Jazz. What was that experience like?
It was a little bit of a shock, to be honest with you. My senior year, I didn't get a whole lot of run, let's be honest. But I'll tell you a funny story about that, Mike. Frank Layden was the head coach and GM for the Jazz at that point in time. So I'm at my future wife's aunt's house at a party, and that had nothing to do with, I wasn't even paying attention to the draft. And my mother called me and said, hey, you got to call Coach Layden. He wants to talk to you. He just drafted you in the 6th round of the draft. And I went, holy shit, you kidding me? So So we get to the thing, and as it turns out, Frank was from Brooklyn, as my mother was. They went to the same high school. My mother's maiden name is
That's
Larson,
crazy.
and his name is Layden, and they were right next to each other in the high school yearbook.
That
So
is
the New York Times did a little piece on my mom. She got her 15 minutes of fame because her classmate drafted her son into the NBA.
that's incredible.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And then I guess you had a short stint with the Jazz, and then you went to go play overseas. What was that like?
It was different. I went to a couple of things. I went, what happened with the Jazz was I got to go to camp. I went to rookie camp. First, they took me up to Kutch's. Back then, they had a lot of all-star games and stuff up at Kutch's Country Club in the Poconos. So
Very well known.
Right. There was some, the Maurice Stokes games were big time games, So I got to go up there and play, and Mark Eaton, rest in peace. He was there, and Pearl Washington, and there was a bunch of pros there, and they had the old timers. I got to watch Oscar play and Bob Cousy, and they were still being able to fool around a little bit, and so that part was cool. And then I went to camp, and I worked with the guy named Pat Croce in Philadelphia. People from Philly know him as the King of Pain.
Yes.
So he had me in the greatest shape I probably have ever been in. And I didn't realize when you go to Salt Lake City, the altitude, you're way above sea level. And I walked across the street and I was gassed. And I'm going, what the heck? I didn't even know. I thought there was something wrong with me. So we get to practice, and there's Karl Malone, and there's, Thurl Bailey and Mark Eaton. So every day I had to guard those guys. Those guys would come to rookie camp every single day. So the first pick of the draft that year was Del Curry, Steph's dad, who could really shoot. Not as good as Steph, but he could really shoot the ball. So he was there, and we had a guy named Kerry Boagni from UCLA. We had a couple others that. So they kept, out of all the guys that were at camp, they had 5 of us come back to veteran camp, which I was one. There was 3 big guys. John Shasky was one who played at Minnesota, and I don't remember the other guy's name. But so we got asked back to veterans camp, which meant you were on the summer league team.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to do that, and then Frank called us in the office, and I give Frank a lot of credit for this. Frank called us in the office and said, "Hey guys, look, we just made a trade. We got rid of Adrian Dantley." Okay. And we're gonna bring in Kent Benson, who had been in the league for 10 years. If you remember, he was on that 1976 Indiana team that went undefeated, right?
Yeah.
He was the guy that messed with Kareem, and Kareem knocked him out with a.
Yeah, I remember that very well.
Remember that? So Kent came in, and they go, "Look, you guys are all projects. We love you as people. We think you can, we think you have a future. But we don't have the time to work with you. We're going to bring Kent in because he's a 10-year veteran."
Right.
Nothing I could say about that. Now, Frank also said, "Hey, if you want to stay till the end, you're welcome to stay here till the end, and we'll cut you the last day. Or you can go overseas." And Chuck England was calling. They wanted to know what I was doing. So I played in a place called Derby, England for, half a season, 3/4 of a season. And it was crazy because they went from the 3rd division to the 1st division. So they didn't have enough money to pay me, really. So they gave me a job in the company that owned the team. It was kind of a bullshit job, to be honest with you. It was really not doing anything, but it took up time. So I'm working 9 to 5. I get home, I eat, I change, and I'm at practice. But I didn't have time to work out because I was working,
Right.
So, you get out of shape pretty quick when you're not, and you didn't practice every day. It wasn't like here, you played on the weekends and you practiced like 2 or 3 times a week. That was it, So it was a little bit challenging in that regard. But it was fun. I had a good time. I got to see the country, and I got to walk in the steps of the Beatles. One of my teammates was from Liverpool.
Ooh.
So I took a full tour of Liverpool and saw that. And then I wound up, in Casper, Wyoming, playing for Cassie Russell in the CBA, which was an experience. But there's nothing out there but cowboys and tumbleweed, man. I mean, I'm a New York guy, you know.
Right.
Hell, I'm out there, and Brett Applegate from BYU was my roommate. You know, and Brett was notorious for dunking on Mike Graham and Patrick Ewing
Oh.
on a game at the Cap Center, and which I have since teased the hell out of Mike Graham, because Mike and I are pretty good friends now.
Yeah.
And anyway, so Brett was there, and there was a Perry Young from Virginia Tech, and we played against guys like Cozell McQueen and
Okay.
Brad Wright, and there was a lot of great players. You know, it was really competitive league, but it was tough because they cleared out for the two guard, which was Perry Young, was a big, strong two guard. So they had, and so you had to be behind the slashes and the dashes, and it was difficult to rebound when you're standing at half court and he's taking a layup. I mean, I can only get there so quick, you know. But it was fun. I mean, listen, I have no regrets over my career, however long it was, and it's a lot of fun. And I was able to give. The best thing about it was I was able to give back to the kids in the neighborhood. I was able to give back to the kids that, my kids and kids that they knew that played. I coached for a long time. I coached both the boys and the girls. And we had different levels of success. And it wasn't really about that. It was like sharing the life lessons that Coach Massimino shared with us.
Well, that's phenomenal. That's outstanding. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
You said that you still remain very close to your former teammates.
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit. Talk about who you are in contact with and what it's like to be able to, like you said, you set everything up together. What was that like, or what is it like?
It's like herding cats, to be honest with you. It's funny because I know more about these guys than they know about themselves.
Right.
Okay? I teased Harold Jensen. I got to call him 4 times before, if we got something that they want us to do. Like, we got inducted recently to the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So I had to call. Thank you. I had to call Jens, I don't know, 4 times. On the 4th time, he figures, I better pick up. Harold Presley will say he's coming. He's going to be in, let's say we're going to be in Florida in West Palm. We were in West Palm Beach with Coach Mass, right? I'll be there. I got a coupon. I'm going to take a flight. I'm going to be. So he winds up in Gainesville, Florida, and calls us and says, "Hey, can you send a manager up to get us?" I said, "There's 4 hours from where we are, Prez." So each guy has their own thing, And it's funny because when I passed the baton off to somebody else, because I was injured or I was ill or whatever, they go, "I don't know how you do this." But it's done. It's a labor of love. I love those guys. They're my brothers. And, we talk. I talked to a different guy. God, today alone, I talked to Brian Harrington and I think Dwight Wilbur today, so, and then, Eddie calls me, I call him. I mean, all the guys talk, and that part is great because you never lose that. And every conversation, Mike, ends with, "Hey, I love you, man. I love you, brother."
Wow, that's cool.
That's so cool. Which is great, and that's all 100% from Coach Mass.
Outstanding. Now, if I had to ask you, of course I already know, but if someone, a layperson, said, "What was it like playing in the Big East?" What would your answer be? And was the Big East better than the ACC or the Big Ten? Or
well, I'm biased, I think, but back then I think it was the greatest conference in the country. I mean, look at the guys that we had come out, around that time. You had Patrick, you had Chris Mullen. Those are 2 of the top 50 players of all time, dream teamers. I mean, that whole group: Pearl Washington, Eddie Pinckney. You go on and on and on. But the thing of it was, in the Big East, it was go hard or go home, man. It didn't matter. There was no cupcake games. There was no easy nights. There was no nights off. Every time you went out there, you had to bring it, especially against teams like Georgetown, like Syracuse back in the day when they were in the league, St. John's. You know, all of these teams were really, really good. And you know, if you didn't come, you know, ready for a fight, then don't come at all. You know, that's how it was. You know, it was very, very physical.
Now, if you had to describe some of the coaches you guys went against, can you give me a little bit of, because there was some
It's
assortment of
unbelievable.
characters that were
Mike,
coaching.
it's crazy. I mean,
Yes.
have you seen a league where something happens on the court, and whatever happens on the court, the camera goes right to the coach of that team. You know, and everybody knew all these guys. I mean, Thompson with the towel, and he's
Right.
a big, intimidating guy, and he's screaming at guys. You had Louis and Coach Mass running up and down the sideline. You had Boeheim complaining about every call. You had, you know, I mean, the Italian contingency. There was about 5 or 6 coaches whose last name ended in A or O. You know, so it was wild. You know, and the other part of that people don't realize, everybody knew the referees' names. You know, so like, you know, instead of saying, "Hey ref, you stink,"
Right.
say, "Hey Larry, hey Higgs, oh my God, we got Higgins tonight. Oh, I can't. It's going to be terrible." You know, it was amazing. It was a great time to be in there. And you know what was cool too is I got to meet Coach Thompson a couple of times. We interviewed Louis from his kitchen on our show, the Big East Rewind, and when he was 98 years old, and he's telling us stories that were unbelievable. I mean, that he could remember everything and everybody's name. He was still a character up until the day he passed away, you know. And we've had everybody on, and to get to know these guys. In fact, I'll tell you a funny John Thompson story. So Connolly Brown and I were at the 18 Final Four, and was sitting on the Riverwalk hanging out. And somebody came up to us and said, "Hey, you know, you might want to go next door. Coach Thompson and JT3 are there. There's nobody around. If you wanted to have a moment and say hello, it would be a good time to do that." Okay. So CB and I, you say, "Hey, let's go. We'll take a ride. We'll take a walk over." We walk over. I go, "Hey, Coach, it's Chuck Everson. How you doing?" "Hi, Chuck." Connolly Brown says to him, "Hey, Coach, Connolly Brown, Villanova University, 1985 national champs. How are you?" So Thompson looks at me and goes, "Is he shitting me, Chuck? Does he really?" So I look at him. I go, "B, he knows who we are." I said, "Our names and our faces are etched in his brain." So Thompson goes, "Yeah, CB, I know who you are. You know, you don't need to introduce yourself like that." And we're laughing. And Connolly was involved with law enforcement, and his job was to protect. One of his jobs was to protect the big sporting events from any terrorism happening at the event. So I said, "Coach, you know, feel safe tonight. Know that this guy here is protecting you from terrorism right now as you sleep at night." So, and we took a great photo with him and his son, and we had a lot of laughs with him. But it was funny because Connolly went there, you know, right in there and just said, "Hey, Connolly Brown, 1985 national champs." So
Now, what I wanted to bring up even more so is that I follow you, of course, and I watch all your videos. For the viewers who may not, and I know you get a lot, talk about some of the guests you had, and talk about your show to begin with.
yeah.
How they can check it out, how they can view it, because if they're fans like me, they will definitely tune in.
Well, if you're a college basketball fan, you should check out the Big East Rewind. And I'm not just saying that because it's us. Sonny Sparrow, who played at Syracuse, and I host this program, and we've been doing it now 5 years. We got over 180 shows, and it's a 360 degree view of the Big East Conference from the people that actually lived it. You know, the players, the coaches. We had the media, we've had the referees on, we've had team priests, we've had mascots, we've had everybody's perspective, and it's kind of we're kind of like the historians for the Big East, and we've had on a virtual who's who of basketball. We stopped counting the Hall of Famers that we've had on. You know, I mean, we had Louis Conasecker, John Feinstein, the writer that passed away. We had Michael Wilbon on. We had Patrick Ewing on, Jay Billis. Our 100th show was Bill Raftery, Sean McDonough, and Jay Billis.
Wow.
And they did all the games with, the 6 overtime game and all that stuff at Syracuse and UConn. They talked all about that. We had my favorite shows are like with the Georgetown guys. We had the '84 team on, and we talked about how that all worked, the mystique of the Hoya paranoia and all that stuff, and how they went. And some of the stuff you'd shake your head at the stories like, what? This is crazy. Michael Graham's telling me, hey, what we did after we won? We went to go see Terms of Endearment. I go, what? What? You're going to chick flicks? You just won a national championship? So, there's a lot of fun stuff like that in there. Matter of fact, there's a guy, I'll tell you one that we just recently did. The guy's name is Tom Hoover. Now, many people will say, who's Tom Hoover? Tom was one of the first African-American players at Villanova, played during times of segregation. So we talked about that, which was wild, okay? And he was best friends with Wilt Chamberlain. So he told us all about Wilt Chamberlain.
Wow.
Not only that, he wanted to be a stand-up comedian. So he went on the Playboy Club tour, He gets to the first stop, and there's Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, and Flip Wilson. He goes,
no way.
It's like the Mount Rushmore of comedy, Mike. so he goes, he becomes Richard Pryor's tour manager. Okay. Then he gets a job with the Boxing Commission. All right. His first job is the fight of the century, Ali Frazier at the Garden.
No.
And he's got to be in Frazier's locker room. He signs the tape on his hands, and he makes sure everything was good. And he's telling these stories, and he got into the real nitty gritty about the fight. How many people were there? He goes, Frank Sinatra was taking pictures for Life magazine. Nelson Mandela was there, Malcolm X, and Dr. King. And it was wild. Listen, and he's 85 years old, and he's still working for the NBA. He's still working with the former players. It's an amazing story, and one of my favorite ones that we've done so far. But in total, it's a labor of love. We're not, nobody's getting rich on this. Believe me when I tell you. And it's just been a lot of fun talking with these guys and getting different people's perspective. And the best thing about the whole thing, Mike, better than the shows itself, is talking with people that you got to play with that maybe you didn't have a chance to have a conversation with before.
Yes.
And now they're calling me, I call them. I'll give you a perfect example. Everybody knows by now, it's been 40 years. At halftime, I got into a scuffle with Reggie Williams, okay, at the end of the half. So he hits me in the face and runs away. I'm looking for the referee because I know I'm not getting back in the second half, and I want to shoot the 1-on-1 and have a chance to score in the finals. So famous photo of Coach Mass pumping his fist. He runs in the locker room. We go in, we come out, we shoot 9 for 10. We set a record, and you know what happened, okay? Reggie and I ran into each other occasionally once in a while, but never really talked about anything, So he called Gene Smith and asked Gene if Chuck would have him on the show. And of course I said yes, And so we talked through it, and I said, hey, man, I think I owe you like a steak dinner or something. He goes, what do you mean? I said, without you, nobody knows who I am. It's another name. I said, you hit me in the face. Everybody thinks that I won the game. I played 3 minutes. And I milked that for 40 years, bro. I mean, So he and I have been buddies, and we've been out together with our wives, and we go to football games and tailgates. And we went to a tailgate, the Eagles Commanders in DC, and Mike Graham was there, and Reggie and Reggie's wife Kathy, and my wife and Kathy, and it was awesome. What's better than that? So we talk we probably talk once or twice a month at least.
Well, that's awesome. And since you brought them up, Reggie Williams, and also Gene Smith have been on my show twice each. So I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about. You know what
Yeah,
I
they're
mean?
good dudes, man. I mean,
They
you
are
know what?
great.
And here's the thing, and I'm gonna, it's not breaking news to us anymore, but it's breaking news. Those guys who were the big, bad, tough guys, always wore the black hat, always was the bad guys. They were the
Yeah.
nicest guys in the whole conference, man. It was unbelievable. When I first talked with Gene, I was like, "You the same guy that plays at Georgetown? Is that you?" He said, "Yeah,
Right.
yeah." So it's been a lot of fun with
Um,
that. So, and you can get it.
no, 'cause-
You can get the show on Sirius XM app. You can get it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, all of them. It's Big East Rewind, and go in there and check it out. And hope you enjoy it. We have a lot of really good content in there.
well, I can vouch for Mr. Everson. His shows are great, and the guests that you have on are unbelievable. So, I wish you the best of luck. Are there any guests that when you guys get together and you decide who you might be interested in getting on your show? Is there anyone yet you are attempting to get that you haven't got on yet?
Yeah, Chris Mullen, and I
Oh,
had Eddie talk to him. I had his brothers talk to him. He says, yeah. Then I call him and it's Ghost. So, Chris, if you're watching this, we want you on. And Allen Iverson's the other guy that we're trying to get that we've been
imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So those are the two guys. I mean, there was everybody asked for a lot of the guys that started the conference kind of. So John Pannone we got a lot of requests to talk to John Pannone and Danny Calandrillo, who I've become really good friends with since we've done the show. Didn't know him before. And next week, this guy played at UConn, Corny Thompson. So
with Kyle Hobbs.
Yep. Right. Exactly. So Corny's on next week. So it's like I said, it's a labor of love. We've Sonny and I have had a lot of fun, and Sonny and I met each other on my visit to Syracuse, and I didn't wind up going there, but we remained friends. He was really nice to me. I stayed in his room and that kind of thing. If anybody knows anything about your college recruiting visits, you stay with a player and you get to kind of shadow them and see what they go through on a day-to-day basis, kind of thing.
Chuck, even though you and I both lovers of the Big East, I want to ask you something about today's game, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What are your feelings on the NIL and all the movement that's going on in college basketball today and the coaching aspect of it? What is your take on the overall landscape of the NCAA year 2025?
It's tough because Villanova, like a lot of schools, built their culture on the older guys teach the younger guys.
Right.
But when you got 12 guys coming in every year, there is no older guys, It's just the guys. So now here's what happens. I mean, I don't have a problem with anybody getting paid, There's a lot of older guys like me that, we should have got paid, all of that. It wasn't our turn for that or whatever. And,
right.
But I think the bigger problem is the portal, being able to jump in and jump out and, leave when you want, come when you want, and there's got to be some kind of rules put in place so that you have some kind of continuity. You can't have zero continuity every year. I mean, look at the Big East now. Like St. John's has the best record on paper. Okay. If anybody picked, these guys are all picking teams. This is my top 10. This is John Fanther and all guys like that. This is my top 5, my top 10. I don't know how anybody can do that because you've never seen them play. All you're seeing are names on a paper.
That's
and
true.
What they did last year. Okay.
That's true.
So now St. John's arguably has the best roster on paper. Okay. And then they come up against Alabama, and there was no gel yet. Rick is still working his magic, trying to get these guys to play together. Doesn't mean now because you got the best players on paper means that you're the best team. There's a lot more that goes into it. You look at I'm a big Yankee fan. You look at the old Yankees where they used to buy. I had an all-star at every position. Those are the years they didn't win anything.
That's true.
When they got their homegrown guys like Jeter, Posada, Bernie, Pettit, Mo, that's when they started to win, not when they were buying players like crazy, So I think it's got to work its way out. They got to figure out some kind of happy medium so that guys and I get it, coaches can leave, but it just seems weird. Like if you look at the college football thing that's going on now.
Oh,
it's very weird that you're opening up the portal and you're opening up the coaches are leaving right in the middle of the playoffs.
Makes no sense.
Last year in basketball, a couple of guys left their teams as the tournament started. I don't understand it, and they were playing. It wasn't like they were, not playing, So it's very weird to somebody like me who's an old school guy, and I see things a certain way, and I don't think I'll ever get that. As much as you want to tell me the coaches leave and they come in and all these different types of things, I don't know. I'm looking at the Lane Kiffin situation. He was in a lose-lose situation. If he stayed, the people at LSU hated him. If he went there, the people at Ole Miss hated him. But then he went on and said, "I don't even know how much money I make." Yeah, okay.
We all know that.
Yeah, I mean, every sportscast in the country told him how much he was making.
He's on every. But and the fact that he's not allowed to coach his team.
Yeah. Well, if he does, what do you think would happen? He'd be talking to them about, "Hey, you got to come with me next year."
That's true too. So I guess they're gonna do something about the time frames, the dates, and
somebody said something. I forget who it was. I think it was on ESPN. I think, they got to put some type of penalty in. If the guy leaves, okay, he shouldn't be able to recruit kids from that team, and then he can coach that team and go do his thing. The problem is, here's the problem, okay, and nobody said this way that I heard. All right. Signing day occurred 2 days after Lane left Ole Miss. So he left, after the Egg Bowl game, the day after or whatever, he left. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So now he had to go because LSU would have no coach. So which prospect would go to LSU where we don't even know who's going to be the coach?
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so it's a business. Everybody forgets. It's not, it's big money in the SEC. So I understand all the sides. There's just got to be a better way to skin a cat, I guess. I don't know.
Now, Chuck, if you are a coach in this 2025 year,
yep,
and you know all about the NIL and the transfer portal, and you were talking about the continuity. How can you develop that as a coach?
It's tough. You do a lot of joint things together as a group, off the court, because I think that's where if you look back at the teams that I was on, especially the '85 team, we did a lot of stuff together off the court, and I'm sure all these guys have set up excursions for these guys to do things together as a group, and you got to hang around each other. But you know what? Here's the thing, Mike. Let's be real, okay? You're making $300,000. I'm making $175,000, and my boys are telling me, "Hey, Mike's making $300. Why aren't you making $300? You should be making $300." Now, guess what? That's going to trickle down to the game, and I may look at you twice before I pass you the ball. You know what I mean? People don't talk about that either. That's the real deal. I mean, you got to get to. I guess what it comes down to is you can't just recruit the most talented kid. You have to recruit a person that's a good kid, okay, that's talented, okay? And then develop and then while you're working with him, you have to talk to him about a plan to stay here. You know, if you look at the Villanova team that won the 2 championships in 16
Yeah.
and right? Jalen Brunson comes in with arguably the credentials of anybody. I mean, I put his credentials up against anybody when he came out of high school, okay? And what happens? He sits behind Ryan Archidiakono, okay? He didn't start, especially at the beginning.
Right.
Ryan was the starting point guard, and then he came in and he got time. But, you know, if it was so easily available for
He would
him,
have been gone.
Paul, he would have been gone. And I'm not saying he wouldn't be doing what he's doing today, but you know, Jalen's not that guy. You know what I mean? He didn't let that bother him. He knew from talking with Jay Wright, because I know how Jay operates. I've seen him at practice and everything. And he has these conversations throughout the whole season about, hey, you know, your turn's coming. You know, this is what's going on. Listen, a guy like Mikal Bridges, who's tearing it up with the Knicks, right?
Ooh.
He redshirted. He was healthy. He was a healthy redshirt. He wasn't hurt. But they said to him, look, we think you need an extra year, and you're going to get here, you know, and you're going to have the success, and you're going to have, just keep working. And the kids today, I think, want everything right now, and they don't want to put the work in like the older guys did, you know. And you see that, and I mean, I know Dante DiVincenzo, Mikal, and Eric Pascal had to, but they all redshirted. You know, so
I didn't know that.
they all redshirted. Yeah. So now on the you know, we have the blue and the white. The blue is the starters, the white was the second team. Their second team had 4 future pros, NBA players on the second team. You know, that doesn't happen by accident. I mean, yeah, these guys were good, they're talented, but they're good people and they were willing to be coached. And that's the key to the whole thing. You know, you have to be willing to be coached and have trust in the guy that's coaching you, you know? And there you go.
I think that's so important. Now, Chuck, again, I want to thank you for coming on my show. Is there anything that maybe I didn't ask, or maybe anything that you want to convey to the viewers that maybe I didn't ask?
No, I think you touched on the whole gamut, man. We went around the wheel with everything. That was good. I appreciate it, man.
Well, that's because you're good. You're very good. Now, before we leave, can you let the viewers know again how to watch your shows, watch your posts? Let them know, because after watching this, they're going to be tuning in to you.
Okay. Well, you know, listen, if you want, we have a lot of reels and stuff that come out on TikTok and on social media, Facebook and all that stuff, Instagram. Just put in Big East Rewind in the search bar and it'll come up. We're on the Sirius XM app. You can put in Big East Rewind there, and the show, you can get all the shows there. On YouTube, you can get all the shows, and wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, we're on all of that as well. Just put Big East Rewind in the search bar and check it out. That's it.
Well, again, Chuck, I want to thank you again for coming on my show a second time. It's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. And I enjoy sitting down, talking with you about the Big East, about your experiences. And it's been an honor for me to have you on my show. So I just want to give you that thanks for coming on my show.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Mike. Anytime, you know, you know how to get me. So anytime you need me or you need me to help you out, try to help you with some guests or whatever, just let me know and, you know, I'll hook you up.
Chuck, thank you so very much.
All right, man. Take care.
Have a good night, Chuck. Thank you so much.
Buddy.
We'll be talking. Folks, that is the one and only Chuck Everson. And, you know, this is the second time on my show, and it's been a pleasure because the man knows a lot. And I don't do my homework too much, but I did a little research on him. And, you know, this man didn't have like the greatest collegiate career. But as you can tell, he's a good person. Everyone has the respect of him. And he still ended up getting drafted by the Utah Jazz. Do you know what I mean? And had a long career. And right now, he's doing some great things with his Big East Rewind. And he's having some of the great guests that he has, you know. And, you know, thankfully, he's going to probably help me out get some more of the Big East guests that he's had on the show, which I'm dying to get because a lot of times I don't really have the contacts that he has. I mean, he's in the heart of Philadelphia, New York. I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, so I don't have the contacts that he has. But anyway, folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to another show of Sports Corner with the Conn Man on the Sports Wave Network. As you can tell, I'm a little under the weather, but show must go on. I want to thank you guys for coming on. Check us out next week. We're going to have another great show. So, people, if y'all in the north, it's cold as you know what. So anyway, take care. God bless. Stay safe and stay warm. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next week. Take care and God bless. Thank you.